Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Woo! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, discussion, and reviews each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be kicking back, relaxing, and discussing the Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation Special. We also have new updates about Andor, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan Kenobi Season 2. And it's announcement time. We'll be making a huge announcement about the future of the Star Wars Underworld, all that and so much more. My name is Chris, and joining me on the show, it's my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yes, it's announcement week. After we've literally been teasing this for a week on end, I am so excited to finally pull back the curtain and reveal all of the things, or some of the things, I should say, some of the things that we've been working on, because we couldn't make all of the announcements at one time. We have to milk it for a little bit and draw this out painfully and annoyingly over the remaining month. I say that, I can say that because the announcement schedule was my idea. So if you hate it, blame goes here.
We're bringing Mark Hamill in to slowly milk things.
Yeah, he'll get that green milk. I'm excited about that. Excited to talk Lego Star Wars. I love those specials so much, and this new one, so good. I cannot wait to get into it. It's going to be a great show.
Heck yeah! And also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Yes, anticipation has been building for minutes, days, and hours, and we're finally here. But you're only getting a part of it tonight. So there's just too much. It's just too much to put into one show. So you're gonna get a part of it tonight, and then later you'll get some more in the coming weeks. And then Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation. We got another one, guys. So it's really good to they just keep providing us with these great Lego specials, and we keep getting to talk about them and watch them. It's great.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to getting into that. And I think one thing, I'm just going to throw this question out now for everybody to think about, is I want to know, and I'm going to want to know, and I'll ask this again later, which of the Lego characters, whose energy on vacation do you most match? Are you Poe, wanting to do every activity? Are you Rey, falling asleep while reading a book next to the pool? Are you R2 and 3PO just at the spa the whole time? We've got it. Just everybody think that through. Everybody's listening live. You'll put that in the chat when the time is right. But you get a couple of minutes to think about it, because it's time for the big announcement that we've been teasing again for about a week now, really. It feels like we've been thinking about it and talking about it behind the scenes for quite some time, so it feels like it's been a longer build-up, but then I remember that we kept it a secret for a long time because we're like Lucasfilm. We just like keeping secrets. So the big announcement is we are expanding at the Star Wars Underworld. We've been one show and many shows at the same time, really just one big variation of the show for over 10 years now, I'm going to say, with the Star Wars Underworld podcast and then the various spin-offs that we've done that have all been just essentially extensions of this show, with Live from Lothal, Radio Razor Crest, the Kazuda Cast, Clone Wars Strikes Back, Pod Force 99, all that good stuff. But now we're going to properly expand into a full network. We are the Star Wars Underworld Network, and we're going to be bringing on new shows. We're going to be bringing back some old shows and bringing in some new shows to, paint a fuller picture of the Star Wars discussion that is out there beyond just the three of us and our occasional guests. And as part of this announcement and part of this is that, this is a lot. This is going to be a lot. And we need to bring in someone to help carry the weight. We need strength. And when I think of strength to help us out, I think of Australia. And when I think of Australia, I, of course, think of the new Star Wars Underworld podcast co-host, Hannah Rayside. Hannah!
Oh my God! I didn't see you there. Hello, everyone. I was just reading this fantastic children's book of the High Republic, but I guess I should stop by and have a chat. Hello. It's so good to be here. I am so thrilled with this new adventure we're all going to go on. It's going to be great.
Yeah. This is going to be fantastic. Hannah's going to be joining us kind of as the fourth host, and rotating host as well, because part of this is that we're bringing back when the Bad Batch comes back. The other part of this announcement this week is that when the Bad Batch comes back, we're bringing back Pod Force 99. You're going to be a big part of that. You're going to be a big part of this show here. And that's, of course, in addition to everything that you're doing on your YouTube channel. Join the Rayside. Terrific name. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, it is organized chaos is the best way to describe it. Every week I go live and I do some random build, craft, make something. Last week it was 2.5 hours because I had to make this minute, tiny, metallic Millennium Falcon, and it took me 2 hours to build.
Oh my God.
It was so intense. And then next week we're doing lightsaber pretzels, where you get the pretzel and rods and you dip it in the icing, and it's so every week it's something different. We're making something in Star Wars every week, and as we're doing it, we have a chat. The live chat is fantastic over there, and we chat about Star Wars, what's happening, and just enjoy it all together. So that's what happens over on the Rayside. It's a very, very fun time, very, very enjoyable for me. It's more of people just watching me have fun, more like. But it's a good time. It's a good time.
Yeah. So this is what we're talking about. We're expanding the type of Star Wars content that is within the umbrella. And so obviously we'll continue to have in-depth discussions about all things Star Wars here. You'll have your fun Star Wars vibes over at the Rayside, and there's more to come. We have more announcements coming next week, potentially the week after, and maybe even the week after that as well. So this is just the beginning, as a certain someone once said. So keep your eye out next week for what the next announcement could be, and watch this space. We'll have more exciting stuff, and we'll continue to grow the Star Wars Underworld network over the coming weeks, months, years, decades, centuries, millennia,
this escalated
and beyond.
So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna live that long. This thing's gonna be going on until I'm dead. Oh my God.
Yeah. Ben, you
an existential crisis here.
Ben, you you brought this crisis on yourself. You started this.
I know. It's all my fault. I'm sorry.
What's your feeling about this? How are you feeling going into taking this momentous step into the future?
No, this is amazing. I think this is kind of, I don't want to say it's exactly what I envisioned from the get-go, because it's definitely not. Doing this with my face on camera, I didn't even want to do podcasting, okay? It's this guy above me that dragged me kicking and screaming into the podcasting world, okay? And I never looked back. But then doing this and then having so many great friends, as I say in the freaking intro. So, to share this with, I think it is amazing. And Hannah, so just a pleasure to have you. I think it's always been fun to have you as a guest, and now it's great to have you officially.
It's always felt good, doesn't it? It's always just fitted. I don't know. So the rebellion, the resistance, it's magical. It's great.
But but I like the idea of, expanding this out and giving more people. I think we've always, podcasting is this brave new world that we've entered into, and it's been so great. And sharing it with other people, sharing with other podcasts, giving other podcasts a chance to share the space with us, I think is going to be really exciting. You guys are going to be really excited about what shows we have to offer you guys, both on this channel and otherwise, and lots of other surprises that I cannot wait to talk about.
Yeah, you mentioned the intro, Ben. It just occurred to me, and this, I cannot believe I hadn't had this thought between all the time that we've been planning this. Hannah, we're gonna have to add you to the intro.
I just thought that. I was watching it. I'm like, oh yeah, Ben. Oh yeah, Chris. And I was like, oh, is that gonna be? Do I have to do this?
Yeah.
Do I have to make
you gotta come up. Yeah, you gotta come up with a catchphrase.
What's so funny is that we've never actually added someone to our intro. We've only taken people out.
Yeah,
because we used to have other hosts that we started with, and yeah,
we don't even tell them; we just take them out.
So like the intro that you hear actually is just a piece of a very long intro that used to include lots of other people that are no longer with us. That blue, shiny, sparkly force ghosts over here in the podcast pantheon. So we don't know how to make it bigger. What happened?
We'll figure it out.
The only option is one of us has to go to for Hannah.
It's like
who's it gonna be?
The intro.
Oh,
we have to do a
series. Not enough room for the four of us.
I mean, George Rogers in the chat is asking the important questions. Hannah, what sort of packaging are you nostalgic for?
Jar Jar. Any kind of Jar Jar packaging is phenomenal. He got the weirdest stuff, man. I think that.
I mean, going off that intro, I think I do love Star Wars books. Yes.
Can I say bloody in an intro? Star Wars, bloody beautiful. That's what I think I want it to be.
There's blood in Star Wars.
Yeah, I can't think of a good reason why not. I think we
it.
all should re-record our intros with local swearing in it.
This adds to the authentic
feel.
What
incarnation?
Yeah, there we go.
Wicked awesome packaging.
Oh, I love it.
It's gonna be all around good times, eh? There we go. Chris, over to you. How are you feeling on this most auspicious day?
Ben reminded me of the first time that I talked to him when I was in my parents' basement, actually.
And I was in this room.
That hasn't moved. I've moved 10 times.
Nothing's changed.
I remember I set my laptop on the washing machine and called Ben up on Skype, and Ben doesn't really sound like he does now. He sounded very different back then.
That has changed.
And I was just
Thank God.
wow, this is so bizarre to be hearing someone's voice who I've only texted for my entire life. What is this?
Wait, how did he sound different?
Oh, you don't ask that question. Don't
we all sounded a little more local back in the days.
back in the old.
You think this happened overnight? I got news for you.
Yeah, prepare
you think
to slow.
You think I came out of the womb like this? No way. It was different.
Prepare to slowly lose your accent over the years on this show, Hannah. That's just how it goes.
I'll slowly become American. Yeah.
It's happened to all of us. I've maintained the correct pronunciation. There we go, of the word against, and that's about it. That's all I got left. All that's left of me that's Canadian.
So that for me, it's like I'm in normal conversations with people around me, and they're like, "You don't talk like you're from around here."
I wish you spoke like that.
I do when I want to. And see,
do
if you get around my family, if my family on the show, which rarely happens, you will hear it come out. It's still in there, still in my deep subconscious.
It's like the dark side, and you're having to like suppress it like all the time. You like know it's there. You try not to give in.
Whenever I get a phone number.
Shut up.
Whenever I get a phone call from a number back home, I'll just be like, "How are ya?"
I was just in this room, and
that's half the country says that. More than half the country says that.
Sure they do.
You Canadians
Sure
and
they do.
Californians don't say that.
Yeah.
Sure
What are
they
you doing?
That's great. But yeah, this is super exciting. It's amazing that Hannah is here, and it's amazing that we have lots of other exciting stuff coming.
Yeah,
Super exciting.
exactly. So again, tune in next week. We'll have another announcement, and we'll continue to grow the Star Wars Underworld network. Of
We need to
podcasts
add-
and
should I
YouTube
add it?
channels and all that. Yeah, we gotta write it in.
I'll get
on the
I'll get a
shirt.
yellow Sharpie. Yeah. There you go.
on the merch. I'll put it on the buttons too. Let's just start adding them. Well, yeah. I mean, this means we have to update our merch for the next celebration.
Yes.
So
Ooh,
if
for the first time in like 7 years.
yes, exactly. We've been using the same
Yay!
been using the same stuff since 2017. So it's about
Wow,
it's
that's
about
like a lot
time.
closer. 7 years was like a ridiculous exaggeration. It's
Yeah,
like
no.
so close.
Well, that was
was
the first time we all were
accurate.
together in one room. So
2015 would have been
7 years ago, I met.
Oh yeah, 7 years ago. Yeah, we're just at 5 years for the merch.
Yeah, exactly. Merch is
Yeah.
a little
I
newer
mean, just
than
think
that.
about it. 10 years from now, we're gonna be like, "Oh, you have one of the original pre-network buttons." Oh, that's
An
a
OG.
that's a find.
Yeah, it'll be a collectible. Steve Sansweet will be begging for one. Although I know Steve has one because I made him take one at Celebration Chicago.
It's somewhere in Rancho Obi-Wan.
It's
Might be in the
somewhere, yeah.
trash, but it's somewhere.
He was walking by at like 8:30 in the morning before the convention was open, and he looked like he had a lot of fun the night before. And I saw him going by, and I went, "Hey, Steve!" And he looked at me like, I know I should be excited that somebody wants to say hi to me, but I really have no energy right now. And I understood that in my soul because I was very much feeling the same way. And I was just like, "Hey, Steve, here you go." And I handed him a button. He was like, "Thanks," and walked away. And that was my that was my last interaction with Steve Sansweet. What a guy. So it's there. He's got one.
And
pointed
now
that
I
out.
didn't see him walking around at this past celebration, so now I know why he gets harassed and given buttons he doesn't want at celebrations.
Well, at the most recent celebration, the Rancho Obi-Wan exhibit was Boba Fett and Mandalorian themed. And as we were in line, the thought crossed my mind that perhaps one of our lovely Boba Fett buttons might have found its way into the fan-made section. It didn't. It didn't. But alas. So there we go. More to come, but this is exciting. On with the show. On with the plugs.
All right, so make sure you punch that subscribe button, Chewy. If you're not subscribed to the show, because there's so much great content coming your way, you can super chat with us so we have some money to put together all that new merch that we need to put together. That's going to be quite the undertaking. And you can also become a channel member and get a special badge on your profile when you're commenting. Another way that you can support us is at patreon.com/theswu, which is where you can get our weekly Patreon bonus pre-shows that we do. If you want a sample of what that's like, go back a few weeks on our YouTube channel here, and you'll see a highlights best of the pre-show video that we cut together of that. But you can get that any pledge level at patreon.com/theswu and get that legacy merch before it's replaced with new merch.
Network merch.
Yes.
I'll plug again. You heard me talk about this last week. We got my new Substack. It's an email blog thingamajig where I write about Star Wars and more. I've got a new post going up probably around the same time that I'll publish the podcast version of this show, talking about, surprise, Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation. So it'll be like a double whammy of written and audio discussion of that. So you can subscribe to that. The easiest way will probably be just to look for it on my social media at Dominic J25 and the Star Wars Underworld social media at the SWU.
And make sure you check out Hannah's YouTube channel, The Ray Side. If you're just listening, you can spell that RAESIDE on YouTube. make sure you check that out. And as always, swunderworld@gmail.com is where you can send us feedback via email. And please leave a review if you are listening on your favorite podcast apps. All right.
You mentioned channel members. Well, we've got a new one. George Rogers has become a channel member.
Heck yeah.
And George asks, I'm a channel member, but am I on the council? Well, no, but you are part of our new clone battalion. And you get your number, I believe you're CC 004. No, CT 004.
CT.
Yeah, CT, because we're the CCs here. It's Ben. We discussed this. We had a very serious meeting the other day.
In depth.
And we discussed this for some reason. Ben is CC 000. Chris is CC 001. I'm CC 002. And Hannah is now CC 003. And then in terms of members, I believe Jesse is CT 001, Joel 002, and George 003. We're growing this battalion out in exciting ways. Although it may not last because this latest comment, this deal gets worse all the time.
It gets worse all the time. I love it.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation, the latest Lego Star Wars special to hit Disney Plus. And the conclusion of the kind of informal trilogy of Lego Star Wars holiday specials that began with the Lego Star Wars holiday special 2 years ago, continued with Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales last year, and of course wraps up with Summer Vacation. Let's dive into things, give our initial impressions of the special. And Ben, normally I'd throw it to you first, but Hannah, you're the new host.
Excellent.
Here's your initiation.
Excellent.
We're throwing it to you first. Your thoughts on Summer Vacation, the Lego Star Wars, not just Summer Vacation as a general concept.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey here. Now, this is related, but it's a rant as well. So what a way to start my thoughts. So, brilliant. What a fantastic looking show. Summer Vacation. But if you live in Australia, if you live in New Zealand, the show does not come out on Disney Plus until September 28th. And you can't get it anywhere. It streams the whole world, but Australia and New Zealand. So I have tried for days looking to torrent, to download some scammer somewhere. And I have been unable to watch the special. I'm not kidding. This is a thing. There's articles on it. For some reason, apparently it's some marketing thing. They didn't think because it's like it's going to be applicable here because it's winter in Australia and it's not going to do well. This is a legit thing.
What?
It's not available. It's not available until the end of September for Australia. So, because I was very confused trying to look this up because I was so keen. I love the other previous specials. I love Lego. I'm like fantastic, hyped as anything. And it's unavailable to see in Australia or New Zealand.
That is insane.
Yeah, that might be the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It furthers my point of like I feel like Australia or maybe just the Southern Hemisphere is just like overlooked with Star Wars marketing. Like we've never gotten any kind of Star Wars like events or anything like headed our way. And now they're like, they can wait for this thing that like the rest of the world has. So it's so random.
They think they think because it's not technically summer, nobody wants to watch. Yeah. You know what I want in the middle of what I would hate in the middle of winter? You know what I would hate? Imagining myself on a beach somewhere, sitting next to a pool, sipping a cool drink, falling asleep reading a sacred Jedi text.
Oh, beautiful. What a great...
what?
Come on.
That's
insanity.
Oh my... That's
and it's
ridiculous.
like I saw like that reason was the most prevalent reason I saw in all the different articles covering it. Like reputable places of news all saying the same thing because they're like, marketers at Disney said, Australia won't like it because it's cold there. It's so strange. But
Bob in Southern Hemisphere distribution has clearly lost his
Missed
damn
the mark.
mind. Yeah.
But anyway, but I thought I was gonna tell you before the show, and I was like, no, I'm gonna like open this as a can of worms at like as a bang at the start of the show. So as much as I obviously haven't seen it, I'm very I can get spoiled on this, so I'm open to hearing everyone else's takes and opinions of it. Just to get me more excited when it finally does come. So that's I'm ready to talk about it anyway.
Well, apologies to all of our listeners in the Southern Hemisphere or second hemisphere. I'm just that angry. I'm so angry that I'm channeling how Disney thinks about it, because clearly there's the Northern Hemisphere, the superior hemisphere,
right?
The first hemisphere.
First class.
Well, every map I've seen in the world, we're on top. So clearly, the people down there, they're second place. They're upside down. They wouldn't understand. They'd have to flip the TV screens upside down to watch it.
Oh man,
it's funny you say that, because a lot of these articles would have like a head title, like a graphic, and they would jokingly put the banner for summer vacation upside down, being like, "They don't care about us."
Okay, that explains why I was searching for pictures to put in hot off the press this week, and I kept coming across versions of the poster that were upside down, and I didn't understand why.
That's it.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like Star Wars secretly hates Australia, even though we made the prequels for you.
Right?
I was gonna say.
Anyway.
All right. Well, so apologies to our listeners and host in the Southern Hemisphere, because apparently you guys can't watch it. And boy, there are some twists and turns to this thing. The death of, well, I shouldn't say, is really heartbreaking. Okay. Well, I guess we're gonna.
You can spoil ahead. It's okay. Lego will be the only thing I'm okay to spoil on, so that's okay. I'll still get it.
I hope everybody tunes in to our first week show after the 28th of September, because we're going to do part 2 of this roundtable.
Woo, immediate reaction.
Yeah.
A month and a half late.
Well, Ben, you thought you were off the hook, but you're not. We're going to throw it to you first. Give us your thoughts on Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation.
Yeah, it was bound to happen. So I really enjoyed this. I think all of them have been just fun little romps, and they've been so obviously funny. But I think what makes these things stand apart for me is when I was thinking about when I was watching it last night was the whole idea of, I think Lego Star Wars is Star Wars. People don't like hearing this, but Star Wars is goofy and funny a lot of times. They want to think of this dark and gritty thing, but it's really not. It is serious. It takes itself seriously in a way. It is very sincere in its storytelling, but it's still freaking goofy and hilarious sometimes. Some of the best Star Wars is just absolutely absurd. And so this one, these Lego shorts, they take that away. They just add more goofiness. They dial the goofiness to 11 or 12. Whereas, Star Wars normally is, is about a 5 or a 6 maybe. But they still have the sincerity of, they still have the, I don't want to say reverence, but they take these characters seriously. They do. They take a character. They're trying to tell a really interesting, meaningful story with these characters, and not dumbing it down, not doing it in a way that's I can believe this is what happened after Rise of Skywalker, guys. This is my headcanon. Yeah. It's just continuing that story of Finn and Rose and Rey. They all went on vacation on Halcyon. That's what happened. This is true canon, or at least a version of this happened. And I love that. I love that they're still this. It's still ridiculous. It's hilarious in every way you can imagine, every way you expect with a Lego special, but it still has that tinge of, this is, we're doing something that's meaningful. We're taking the source material seriously enough to, not, to do it right. I think that's why these shows really do hit it off so well, is because they have that Star Wars magic, that Star Wars sincerity, but it's also just more funny.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be able to read all about this in Hot Off the Press this week. But I really see this trilogy as the sequel trilogy epilogue. And the epilogue that was missing from the sequel trilogy, I'll add. They pick up on some, some of the main themes of those films and give us a little extra something, a little extra kick to remember as we move away from the sequel era, which we'll talk about more when we get to the end of this special. But you're absolutely right, Ben. There's always a moment in each of these last three specials where I'll be laughing along at the jokes and enjoying the sort of the silliness of it, and then you'll be hit with this just like really poignant moment and like great bit of wisdom and really something that makes you think and feel in the way that all the best Star Wars stories, whether they're live action, animated, or made out of Lego, do. And Summer Vacation is absolutely no exception to that rule. Chris, over to you. Your thoughts overall on Summer Vacation?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that kind of like confuses me about Disney Plus and Lucasfilm right now is that in this supposedly non-canon space of Lego, the writers understand the characters of the sequel trilogy and are giving more screen time to the characters in the sequel trilogy than outside of this space in canon itself. And that is just something I was not expecting. Like if you had told me, 10 years ago that, not only would we be getting a sequel trilogy, but also after the trilogy ended, we'd only really see those characters in Lego form. I'd be like, what are you, that doesn't make any sense. Why would they make 3 movies and have all these new characters? And then we just see them in Lego after that. Like that's never happened before with anything else. So it's really confusing to me that they are being so hesitant to use these characters in canon when not only are they using them outside of canon, but they're using them better outside of canon than they sometimes are in canon. Like just seeing how these characters are written, seeing how Rose and Rey and Finn and Poe are written in these Lego specials, I feel like sometimes the writing is more intelligent and emotionally intelligent in these specials than they are whenever they're used in canon. Like it's just really strange to me. So that obviously is unfortunately a criticism of Lucasfilm, but it's definitely not a criticism of anybody who's making these shows because these specials are absolutely amazing. And, they wouldn't stand out this way if there was good stuff inside canon that was going on right now, but there's not. So they've done it right. Like they have continued story threads and character development from the sequels extremely well, and they've done it in a signature Lego way where this special was it had that Lego humor to it. It had that fun to it too, but it also had that emotion and that character development as well. So I really like this one. I would say ranking them it's kind of right up there with the first one. I don't think I liked Terrifying Tales as much. That one seemed a little bit too much of an anthology and a little bit all over the place for me. I enjoyed watching it, but I don't think I'd go back and watch it again. Whereas this one, definitely I'd put up there with the original Lego Holiday Special and the Padawan Menace way back in the day as like some of my favorite Lego specials. I really enjoyed it.
Do you think there's something sort of freeing about being able to tell these stories in Lego form? And part of the reason they feel so much more, I'm going to use the word poignant, I think, than sometimes the quote unquote canon stories do, is because they're allowed to just be their own thing. There's no pressure to be the next installment in the Skywalker saga. There's no pressure to be the next big thing on Disney Plus. They can just be a fun little adventure. And I wonder if maybe there's a little less there's a few fewer cooks working on this broth.
Oh yeah.
As a result, you can see kind of the writers and the directors and the specific producers on this one, you can see their vision shining through, and their interpretation of the sequel trilogy as era as a whole kind of shining through, because it's allowed to just be its own thing. It doesn't have the pressure to start anything, to end anything, or even really to continue anything. It can just be.
Yeah, definitely. But then at the same time, like it's odd because what Disney's doing inside itself, like in the Disney parks and resorts experiences, is all branching off of the sequel trilogy. So you have the Halcyon, and then you have Batu, and those things are sequel trilogy era things. And so it's kind of interesting to me that there's this initiative to have the sequel era be the era of the next generation of fans. And you have the parks mirroring that, and you have the non-canon content mirroring that, but you don't have any more expansions inside the core canon, especially on the screen. And that is just that doesn't make sense to me, how they would just have all of this Disney. I mean, it would make sense if there weren't any other TV shows or films. That would make sense. It's like, okay, here are 3 big films. That's all the Star Wars you're going to get until episode 10. And Lego stuff's going to be based on that. And the theme parks are going to be based on that. Resorts are going to be based on that. That would make sense. But the fact that they're putting so much effort into creating all of these different shows on Disney Plus, and there are all of these movies in development right now, like, it's kind of interesting to me that they're choosing to go back to the original trilogy and the prequels, and even eras that have not really been explored much, like we're going to be talking about in a bit with the Acolyte. It's interesting they're choosing to do all these other things and ignoring the sequels, which really hasn't seen anything significant since Resistance ended. When outside of the media, you have, or the canon media, you have all this other stuff that is kind of like a shadow of the sequels. Like it's very interesting, but it still ties together well. Like, I love how the Halcyon was the main home base for the stories in this show, because that ties into the resorts experience. So they're creating immersion still and creating all these connections and this continuity. It's just kind of strange that technically all of it is outside of on-screen canon storytelling. Like, it's very interesting.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it's like, I agree where it's like, it doesn't make sense, but also I think maybe they saw this as a cool down period, because obviously, like, we don't have to talk about it at all. We just all know that, the absolute heat those movies got, Last Jedi in particular, and, Rise of Skywalker, and, it's just, they weren't the most beloved movies. So I think maybe they wanted this cool down period, and that's where they were like, well, what if we just do like a show about a random Mandalorian, like a kind of to fill in the gaps, and then saw that was successful. And then I feel like they're still in this period of, let's just do what you're saying. Like this, we'll make the parks themed on sequel. We'll make these non-canon things. And maybe that's getting us recontextualized to the sequel trilogy. So then if they bring out a sequel era based show next year or 2 years, 3 years time, or the next movies are like near that period as well, we're like, oh yeah. We know a ship called the Halcyon. We know like bits and pieces from here and there. We know Batu. We know these kind of names, and kind of recontextualize fans. Because I think maybe that was a bit of a jarring thing from the sequel trilogy, of just the new information that didn't have any context yet for us. Which is, I mean, Star Wars has always like been like, hey, here's the planet. It's got a massive history, and then you learn about it. It's not like you learn about it and then you know everything about it. It's like, does that make sense? Like, it's all about context.
It does.
Like, it's around the thing.
It makes sense. I just wish they were doing that inside canon. I wish that they were recontextualizing it in canon by adding, because a lot of what they've done with like the Clone Wars and Bad Batch is adding to the prequels and things that the prequels were, because obviously, if you remember, the prequels got a lot of negative feedback as well, and if
Mhm.
not maybe more so in some cases. And there are some criticisms of the prequels that I think are fair, that, you know, from a storytelling point of view, that there were some things that were missed in those movies. And yet the Clone Wars provided George Lucas an opportunity to kind of continue those stories and add to those characters in a way that really strengthened the entire era. And then Bad Batch continues to do that as well. And now we've got flashbacks and live action to the prequel era and lots of cool stuff like that too. So I feel like if there was a show that was like the Clone Wars or like Bad Batch that took place in the sequel era and actually had focus on the main characters from the supporting cast from the sequels, I think that it would add context to the films and actually strengthen the films, because then we wouldn't necessarily see the films as a deficit in certain character development points, but just as, well, they just didn't have time to do this or that. Like, for instance, I did not like the choice of not continuing to develop Boba Fett as a character in Revenge of the Sith. I thought it was kind of weird that they brought him in Attack of the Clones, and he was such a big, him and Jango were such a big part of that story, and then he just disappears and you don't see him again until that one quick scene in A New Hope, and then big time in Empire Strikes Back. Why not continue a story developing in Revenge of the Sith? George Lucas made the creative choice to focus that movie very much on Anakin, and if it's not related directly to Anakin's story, it's not in that movie. And so, but then he went with the Clone Wars and actually did tell those stories about Boba Fett. And so then that makes Revenge of the Sith fit kind of better for me within Star Wars canon, because you're not missing things. They're just off in another story. I feel like you could have done that with the sequels. They still can do that with the sequels. It's just interesting that they are very kind of gun shy about it, and they're just trying to do it outside of canon or in theme park experiences rather than actual shows and films.
Yeah. I wonder also how much of this is impacted by just how generational Star Wars is, that it's been around for 40 plus years. And so when you're trying to attract filmmaking talent, you are going out there looking for people who want to make Star Wars projects often. And so you ask them, what project do you want to make? And I'm going to say most people in Hollywood presently would still choose something in the original trilogy era, or something that is original trilogy adjacent. And, you know, God love Jon Favreau, because Mandalorian and the whole Mandoverse is awesome. But he's the original trilogy generation. He wants his original trilogy era stormtroopers. He wants his original trilogy era X-wings, and he wants his original trilogy era looking Outer Rim, you know? And so even someone like him who is open to tying in with the sequels, Snoke in a jar in season 2, Babu Frick, or at the very least his people in season 3. We saw that in the trailer at Celebration. You know, there's going to be these tie-ins. But when you say to John, you know, I'd like to, would you like to do something in Star Wars? His main instinct is to go as close to the stuff he grew up on as possible. And what's nice about the current slate of Star Wars filmmaking, or at the very least on television, because we don't really know too much about what's going on in the theaters these days. But on television, you know, we are starting to see some people brought in who aren't of that original trilogy generation, or if they are, they're like Tony Gilroy, who goes, I don't give a crap about Star Wars. I just want to tell an interesting story. But so you have John, he's the OT guy. You have Gilroy, who's just sort of like, sure, whatever. Well, I'll set my spy adventure in this sci-fi thing that I guess ties in with the other stuff. And then you have someone like Leslie Headland, who's of a different Star Wars generation than Jon Favreau, but it's still not this Star Wars generation being the sequel era. Leslie comes from the sort of expanded universe Clone Wars era of Star Wars, which similar to all of us, which again just makes us sort of go, what choices did we make in our lives that ensured that we wouldn't be as talented as she is, and getting to make this Star Wars show? No, obviously incredibly talented person who's and so you look at the show that she's making, and it is it's something that is building off of the books and the expanded universe and all this stuff with the Acolyte. And so, this whole generational thing is a great thing for Star Wars, but it also means that sometimes we kind of will wind up waiting, I think, a while longer than I think maybe we would want to get something that picks up on the stories of, whatever the current generation is.
Yeah.
And so the sequels, we might not, we used to joke about this, though. Daisy, John, and Oscar will come back in 30 years. We might not see anything. We might not have a filmmaker who's ready for that sort of thing for another, 10, 15 years before you get somebody who walks through the doors there in San Francisco and says to Kathleen Kennedy, because she'll still be there, it says, Kathy, I want to do a Rey story. And Kathy will say, great, let's go. Let's do it. Yeah.
That would make sense if it weren't for Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation.
True.
Like, if it weren't for this one thing, I would say, oh yeah, that's 100% what's going on. But here's the thing. I think it's been proven by this special that there are people out there that do like these characters who can write them and make more stories with them.
True.
And so, yeah, there might not be a lot of people, and most people, if just given, carte blanche to do whatever they want in Star Wars, might choose something that fits with their childhood nostalgia. But I mean, clearly, they also can go to the writer's room over at Lego and be like, hey, can you tell a story that is in the current timeline? And then Lego can find people to write it in a way that expands on the characters in the current timeline and is enjoyable in addition to what makes those characters, even if it's not officially canon. But for anybody watching, if I'm a kid watching this, I'm going to get just as, if not more, informed about some of these characters from this special as I would from watching the movies.
And from a purely Disney perspective, you have to think like this is excellent for them. Because for one, they're speaking directly to the younger generation, which is largely made for is younger kids. And it's not made for us, even though we watch it and we love it.
And Lego is ages 4 to 99.
I know. It says it on the box. But it's made for that generation, and they know that generation is going to take this stuff seriously, and no one else is. Not Pablo Hidalgo in continuity, not us old angry fans that get mad because this droid isn't the right color for this whatever, people on the internet, all that stuff. That stuff is just sort of that gun recently, the AK-47 that was the Andor. That's a real gun in a Star Wars movie. Come on now. But like you have this is the best of both worlds, and they're also like putting an investment in that generation. They're speaking to that generation, going like, okay, we care about this now. Kids, there's gonna be kids that watch this stuff that haven't seen the movies, haven't seen anything Star Wars. They're gonna go watch. They're gonna get their first introduction to Rey and Finn and Poe and Rose in this special or in one of these specials. And they go, okay, what's that all about? I'm gonna go watch those movies and get into the franchise from that perspective. And those kids are going to grow up and they're going to want that Rey Skywalker movie, Rey Skywalker, a Star Wars story, whatever they're going to call it, because we know what's going to happen, or Star Wars Episode 10 or whatever else. And then they have a kind of a free reign. And as you said earlier, no pressure. No one is expecting anything from this or just saying, but we know as fans, we're like, this is deep stuff. They're taking this seriously, but all the angry boys on YouTube are just turning a blind eye to it.
One of the things I find satisfying with these Lego specials, though, speaking of angry boys, is that it's kind of awkward to like make a hate video about Lego and Star. Like it really is
because they are
a
very
lot
serious.
lower.
They're very serious Star Wars thinkers. Okay, they have to be taken seriously.
Like,
and they can't be seen,
Oh.
railing on this SJW Lego Star Wars thing. I'm
Oh, man.
angry about.
It's just like what? But I don't know. I feel like it's at a if we could get a percentage of them, I feel like it's lower than a usual piece of content coming out. So it's like a plus of it, I guess. It's like it's just kind of I don't know. It's
And
like
this-
it's like a grown man picking on a kid. It's like whoa.
this
what the
this
hell?
calls into question why Disney would decide to not let Star Wars Detours be the first Disney Star Wars thing, because like the whole point I think behind that was we don't want people to associate Disney Star Wars with like silly non-canon stuff. But then here they are leaning on the crutch of silly non-canon stuff to tell stories that they're too afraid to tell in canon.
This is so. This is what this is something I'd be curious about with Detours. Is does Detours have any moments like the end of this special where Finn is essentially saying goodbye to his friends because they're all about to scatter off on their own adventures? Because, for as goofy and silly and over the top and wonderful as these specials are, they have a real, we've said this over and over again, a real heart, a real poignancy, and a real sort of message and kick to them that, even say the Padawan Menace didn't have, or The Empire Strikes Out.
Right.
You think back on those original Lego specials, they were all jokes, and they were great. But they didn't have the secret sauce, for lack of a better term, that these holiday specials have had.
Ian, no, but yeah,
Ian was good. But Ian didn't stop and drop some serious knowledge about when you have to move on from something in life that you really love, and how it can be both a good and sad thing at the same time, which is what this special did. Or offer all three of them. Like I think I was revisiting Terrifying Tales as well this week, and it also has just some tremendous wisdom to it about the role that fear plays in our lives, and how we can't be dominated by fear. We can't let fear control us. But fear in and of itself is actually a good thing. It's a healthy thing. It allows us to be brave. Is one of the messages of the Terrifying Tales. And so they have this extra level to them that, from what little we have seen of Detours, which admittedly is a teeny tiny amount, I don't know that those would have had. I feel like those would have been more like the Robot Chicken specials, which I love.
Yes.
Love those to death. They are so funny. I can sit down and just laugh for half an hour straight, even all these years later. But they wouldn't be this. And so I think I can at the very least imagine a distinction between Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation and Star Wars Day Towers.
Hey, there we go.
Happy George, happy.
Yeah, and the other thing, that they do, and this is what George said earlier with the super chat, is not to mention Empire Day with Glory to the Empire from Rebels. Lego Star Wars really puts all the pieces of Star Wars together in one nice package. Like Lego very much treats Star Wars as one thing and does not discriminate and say a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, like sometimes the other canon stories will. So that's another thing that Lego Star Wars has going for it as well, in addition to that amazing heartfelt storytelling.
Yeah, and that's something. Yeah, that's something that Lego has been doing for a while too. That predates this. They've had their finger on the pulse, or their finger on the brick pulse. Their brick on the. The brick on. No, I'm not saying that.
What is a pulse? Is it a clear green brick? Is that what a pulse is?
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about some of the stories within the Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation Special. We have sort of 3 adventures. It's Obi-Wan and Shirley from Community become rebel spies for a week on Tatooine, which that was Yvette Nicole Brown, host of the Star Wars Celebration Lucasfilm Showcase panel.
Oh yeah.
Truly just answering the question, what would it be like if Shirley from Community were in Star Wars? Because that's what she did, and it was glorious. We had the Emperor and Darth Vader go to a Weird Al concert on the beach. And we had Ben Solo's first experience with love, or at the very least, his first crush on Endor, all of which was packaged around with the story of Rey, Finn, Poe, Rose, and 3PO, R2, and BB-8 on the Halcyon. For the 2 of you that have seen the special, which one of those sort of 4 stories stood out to you most?
Oh, I'm so mad now because I forgot that I had a plan on how to intro the show and I didn't do it. And now I'm so pissed off. All right, I'm gonna have to do this next week, so I'm not gonna tell anybody. But now I remember. Yeah, I thought all 3 of them were great. I think definitely the one with Vader and the Emperor was a little bit that one was a little bit more silly because obviously you have to take these characters that are technically evil and make them funny and likable. So that's very disconnected from canon, kind of big time. But it creates that a kind of entertaining thing to watch because of that kind of dichotomy where you're seeing the Emperor actually kind of reduced to this farcical version of himself. So I thought that was really entertaining and really funny. I think the other stories were a little bit closer to the characters. And so I thought they were both really, really cool. And extending what we've been seeing on screen very, very well. I thought it was very good timing to have an Obi-Wan story on Tatooine right after it. We saw the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So I thought that was very smart to time it that way. I don't know if that was planned or not, but if it was done very, very well with good timing. So that was great and extremely, extremely fun. And then the story of Ben Solo is actually that was actually a character development. Like that's actually the type of stuff that we want to see in canon. Like if a similar story to that, obviously it wouldn't have probably the same level of jokiness to it. But you can imagine something very similar happening in an actual canon story that would have added a lot to his character. So I thought that was a really fantastic story. So I liked all of them for different reasons. I thought they were all very, very strong kind of minisodes Star Wars stories. And I like the structure of bringing them all in with Force Ghosts. And again, getting Force Ghost Anakin, another thing that the Lego does better than canon.
Force Ghost Anakin and Force Ghost Ben Solo.
Yes. And that is a big thing. Everybody's talking about that this week and what does that mean? Does that mean anything? Does it mean anything at all? Or does it just does it mean anything? Because it's Lego. Like that's fascinating.
I wonder
too.
Yeah. The important questions. Ben, which one was your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like Chris. It's kind of hard to say in regards to it was nice getting an Obi-Wan basically a straight up tie-in with that. He's got the hair and everything. It's just James Arnold Taylor doing the voice, and also Obi-Wan singing karaoke is not something that I had on my bingo card for this one, or even really expected. But we got it, and now I'm disappointed that it wasn't in the actual Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Now I realize what that show was actually missing. But and then having Matt Lanter play Anakin and have these different characters interacting with Finn, saying the word Finn, saying the name Finn, just kind of really caught me off guard. And I love that. I love that, obviously we've gotten, we have the last one is Leia, and we've had interactions between the two, but like having him talk to Obi-Wan, talk to Anakin, kind of wild. I think my favorite one probably is the Ben Solo one. I think just because it feels most consequential to the story of like, wow, we've never seen this before. At least I haven't, like on screen, like see Han and Leia dropping Ben off and to go to the Jedi Academy. Like I've never seen this before. This is something momentous, and it's ridiculous and it's funny, but it's enough. There's enough there. Like, okay, there's a version of this that happened, and there's no jokes towards the end of it. And it's you have Han saying "I love you" and Ben saying "I know." Come on, so good.
Yeah.
My thoughts. Thank you for asking.
Really dying to know.
Yeah. Your thoughts are just sobbing in the corner because you didn't get to actually watch the special.
I'll tell you in a month when Star Wars remembers Australia as a country. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. My favorite was I loved all three of like the anthology stories, but my favorite was the framing device, the story with Rey, Finn, and Poe, and Rose, and 3PO and R2, and BB-8. That just brought together such a poignant ending to the trilogy, to the sequel trilogy era, and it was kind of something that I didn't realize that I needed as a fan, having just lived through the sequel trilogy era. And, whatever I may think of the films themselves, the era is really important to me because of, the experiences and the friendships and all of that came out of it. And, I was sad when The Rise of Skywalker ended, not because I didn't like the movie, but because just, that's a chapter of your life, or a chapter of my life that was sort of ending, right? To go from Force Awakens or even pre-Force Awakens to that, it felt like, that was a moment, and it happened to coincide with just, other stuff in life that felt like, okay, these are turning points are ahead. Didn't realize there would be a pandemic. There's it gives a whole other context, but it felt like that sort of, that there was a different sort of emotion to Rise of Skywalker's coming out than with the other Star Wars films, just because it was the end of the movie, or the end of the trilogy and the end of that era. And this special, and the way Finn talks about, it's not about the journey, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey, it's about the memories that we've made. It hit me. It hit me in a way I wasn't expecting, and it was really beautiful stuff. So, I thought, so that was the sort of the story that was most impactful for me. All right, silly question. Follow up a poignant question with a silly question. What's the better bop? Scarif Beach Party or Gamorrean Girls?
Oh, Gamorrean Girls for sure. 100%.
Ben?
Yeah, I guess Gamorrean Girls, maybe.
Hannah, I just want to know what you're thinking at the moment.
I'm honestly thinking, just the title of Gamorrean Girls, I'm like, I need this show. My God, that sounds amazing. Oh, that sounds so good.
I enjoyed the sequence, the Gamorrean Girls sequence, more than the Scarif Beach Party sequence. I think because we knew that Scarif Beach Party was going to be a thing, because Weird Al, all that stuff, the expectations were a little too high for it. That being said, when I first heard that Obi-Wan was going to sing something called Gamorrean Girls, I was very much
Obi-Wan sings?
Yeah, this is a thing that happens.
Oh my god! Why did they exclude us? Oh.
Hannah's buying a plane
amazing.
ticket to another country right now just to watch
let's go.
this.
See you. I'll just see you in 14 hours.
How much is a VPN?
I was
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
When I heard that was going to happen,
Oh.
I was expecting and hoping for a Katy Perry parody. And when that didn't happen, I was disappointed. So I'm going Scarif Beach Party.
I'm glad that I didn't have that expectation, or otherwise I would have been too, because that's one of my favorite songs.
As soon as he said it, I'm like, here we go. Let's we were robbed of the salesman dream parody from Detours. So maybe we were gonna finally make things right in the world of Katy Perry Star Wars parodies.
They're so hot they'll melt your lightsaber.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna lie. When you first said Gamorrean girls, I thought I just imagined they were female Gamorreans singing the song, like about. And I was trying to like female Gamorreans just singing. I don't know.
There's a plot for a new Disney Plus Star Wars series, like a behind the music style parody about a girl group made up of all Gamorreans.
Instead of the Spice Girls. Oh, they could still be the Spice Girls.
They could still be the Spice Girls.
Spice running girls.
Yep.
There we go. Got great ideas. Great ideas coming out of here. All right. The question I teased off the top. Whose vacation energy do you most match of the Lego Star Wars sequel trilogy characters?
I actually related to Finn.
Finn?
Yeah, so I'm going for Finn.
Going for Finn. Okay. Benjamin.
I'm trying to think because I've definitely been in the presence of people like Poe, particularly my family. Are just like, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, the tour over here, the behind the scenes tour, and all that. Like, that's my family. So I've definitely experienced that. So I guess I'm probably Rose. I'm just like, can we slow down, please? My feet hurt. Like, all that. Run away.
Yeah. Ray all the way for me. I love a good book, and I inevitably fall asleep while reading it. So that scene when Finn walks up to her by the pool, reading the Jedi text, snoozing and sleep talking about porgs. I felt that in my soul. All right. Joel is dropping a sad theory super chat here.
Oh, why?
We're trying to end on a high note. Joel asks, side theory, you ever think Lucasfilm is hesitant to do sequel trilogy stuff because to them the sequels was more of a business obligation compared to things like Rogue One and Mando, which was stuff they wanted to do?
I've never thought about this before.
Whoa.
Like, because technically speaking, like George Lucas, he was making the sequels if he gave Star Wars to Disney or not. And I remember he gave them an idea for what the sequels were going to be. He gave them a story treatment for the sequels. And then Disney said, we don't really like this. We're going to do something else. So it definitely was not an obligation for Disney to do George Lucas's version of the sequels. But it brings up a really good question of when that contract was signed, was part of the contract that Disney had to make episode 7, 8, and 9. I'd never heard anyone speak to that.
Yeah. That it's kind of something to consider, but I feel like it's both. I think it's both. I think they were just in the mindset of we've got a great franchise. What was I going to say? Franchise there.
That's what YouTubers. That's what the YouTubers want it to be. Star Wars has always been a man-chise.
Man.
Trying to turn it into a woman-chise.
Oh man. That's gonna be Captain Kennedy's next shirt. We are the woman child.
Woman child. My God. But what on earth was I saying? Yeah, I think it was like I don't think it was cold cut either or. I think it was pretty a mix of both situations of like this is a great business venture, but Yeah, they knew they were going to make money, but then I honestly think they stumbled into the success of The Mandalorian. And like,
Rogue One.
And Rogue One. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Even in Rogue One. Like, I really think they stumbled into that. Like, that was a gamble, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the sequels, I don't think they were, I don't think they saw them as a business obligation, to be perfectly honest, for the same reason I was talking about earlier. Everything, Star Wars is so generational. And I think if you asked most or a lot of filmmakers at the time in Hollywood, what's a Star Wars story you would want to make, they would say, I'd love to bring back Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill. And that's what they did.
And you got to remember, Disney made so much money from the sequels. We have to keep saying this, that if you're going to start analyzing it from a business point of view, they made like $3 billion from the sequels, not including all the merch that they sold. I remember how many people were there on those Force Fridays. Like, they sold a lot of merch from those 3 films, in addition to the billions of dollars they made from the box office. So, yeah, I just don't see that's not necessarily, a business is not necessarily, I think, the reason why we're not seeing this. There's other reason.
Yeah, I think I think it's a combination of what I was saying earlier with the generational things, and if you want to look at it from a business side of things, maybe they did get spooked by the reaction that was so visceral, and let's be honest, it became part of the culture war. It really did.
Everything is a part of the culture war.
Everything is, but Star Wars, like, I feel like it's more so than there people have tried to drag Marvel into it, but I don't think they've been as successful. Whereas Star Wars, because of its legacy, was a more viable target for those people and their man-chise YouTube channels.
There's no back in my day for Marvel, because most of those people having opinions about Marvel these days were not reading the comic books back in the 1980s.
Yeah.
So,
but you're starting to see that. You're starting to see that right now with Marvel. It's funny to watch comments, and I for some reason I still read comments in different places, and like you see it now. Now the popular thing is Phase 4 sucks. Everything before Endgame was great. What happened to Marvel? All this kind of stuff. That's the popular thing now. And now Marvel is seeing that growing pains of being an older franchise and having generationally, okay, things are from the past. That's the good stuff. The new stuff sucks. That's the whole thing.
As someone who did not see any Marvel films until they were an adult, it very much pains me to hear talk about generational differences in that franchise. Like, wait a minute.
Iron Man was the good old days. Man. All right. Let's anything else we want to mention about Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation, or should we hit some final thoughts and scores out of 10?
I just wish that a character drank a 5,000 credit drink. I was waiting for that joke, and it didn't happen.
Yeah, there was more drinking in this special than any Star Wars, any other Star Wars to date. Everyone's just guzzling down. Rey and Rosa got their wine. Finn's got his cocktail. Poe had a beer somewhere in there. Like, it's just, all of it was all into it. It was wild.
Family show.
Yeah, family show, Lego. Family show. All right, final thoughts, scores out of 10. Chris, over to you. Final thoughts, score out of 10 for Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation.
I think I have to give this a 10 out of 10 because it expanded on the films in unexpected ways, which is that's what 10 out of 10 means to me. So, yeah, it's 10 out of 10 because it was not only funny, but it was had character development in it, and it was really enjoyable, and it's something that I definitely will watch again in the future. I almost watched it twice before this show, and I did something else instead that it was pressing, but I almost did. If I had a little more
Rub
time
it
in my
in.
week, I would.
Rub it in. You get to watch it twice, Chris. Rub it in. Right.
But then, out of consideration for the Australians, I now refuse to watch it again. until-
I'm
you are.
taking a strike. Strike watching it again.
Yes. We will not stream Disney Plus until all can stream Disney Plus.
Oh man.
Ben, final thoughts, score out of 10.
Are you sure you don't want to get Hannah's thoughts? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Making enemies on the first
You're not
show.
going to be allowed
the
in
first
Australia.
show
Dad. You're going to go
of
to
the-
customs.
Take me out of the intro.
Yeah.
I'm not even in yet. Take me out.
I mean, thankfully she's a few thousand miles away, so she can't hit me. At least not yet.
That technology
so-
is coming.
Yeah, virtual slapping. It's coming, guys. It'll change everything. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy this a lot. I think I'll give it probably a 8.5 out of 10. I say that as just like I enjoyed it. Like I wasn't like I'm not sure how I rank it overall. I'm not saying I have any problems with it, so I don't even know why I'm giving it such a lower score because I literally have no issues with this thing. I guess I have to give it a 10 out of 10 because it was great. It was really fun, and I enjoyed all of these. I think all of them were about a 10 out of 10 for me because they're just good, mostly clean, fun, and it's just I always look forward to these. I hope this isn't the end. I hope this isn't the end of the trilogy. I hope we can get more stuff along these lines and get more of these types of specials. Do an Easter special now. Do that.
Arbor Day. Arbor
Do
Day.
an
Let's go with that.
Australian summer vacation.
my
And they
gosh,
go to
yes.
Australia, and it only releases in Australia and New Zealand, and it doesn't.
Yeah, and it releases then in December, and the rest of us have to wait until May for some reason to watch it.
Well, we could have the holiday, summer vacation and the holiday special in one show because it's summer vacation when it's the holidays, when it's Christmas here. So it would make sense.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. I'm going to give this one a 10 out of 10 as well. We're giving it 10s across the board. For the record, I give the holiday special a 12 out of 10 and Terrifying Tales a 9.5 out of 10. So this one slots nicely in between, but just such a beautiful story with some great jokes. Finn's reaction to seeing Obi-Wan Kenobi just cracks me up when he runs through all of the things that could possibly be happening if there's a second order, if the Emperor has come back again. It's fantastic, and the voice acting in these specials is terrific. Obviously, it was great to hear James Arnold Taylor, Matt Lanter as Obi-Wan and Anakin, and Kelly Marie Tran as Rose, and Billy Dee as Lando. Loved hologram Lando. But the rest of the sequel cast was terrific. The people that they asked to step in particular, the dude who plays Poe, really nails Oscar's voice. Just real, like you could convince me that
it wasn't Oscar.
Yeah, you could convince me that was Oscar.
The guy who did Han too is really good.
Oh yeah,
excellent stuff.
Excellent stuff from the cast.
And Shelby Young as Leia. I love Shelby's awesome.
And her like her general Leia.
Yeah.
Or older Leia was especially good in this.
Yeah,
too.
I was surprised at that one because she's really young. Like she's like in her. I think she's around my age. So yeah.
George gives it a 10 out of 10. Calls it the best luxury cruise commercial ever.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, this explains a lot. This explains what happened. So the marketing team said you need to make a commercial for this, and it needs to be like the holiday special. So they then went with a commercial like the 1978 holiday special, and then they went back to the marketing department, and they're like, no, not that holiday special, the Lego holiday special. What the heck did you guys do? I guess we'll put it out because you made it, but what did you just do? It needs to be like the Lego holiday special. It's be Lego form.
Yeah, I will say though, because I've seen a few people like legitimately complaining about the fact that it's set aboard Galactic Star Cruisers. It's like, if you're gonna complain about cross promotion in Lego Star Wars, I think you're missing the point here.
You have to have the Halcyon in Star Wars canon, or otherwise how are you gonna feel like you're in Star Wars when you go to it? Because Otherwise, you're in some other place and you don't recognize it. I think that's one of the problems that, people initially had with Batuu was like, is this really Star Wars? Because this is not, we don't recognize this, but thankfully they have like the Falcon and things in there that are canon. And so for me, it was fine. But
Batuu, to me, Batuu has always felt like Star Wars, even if it's not
I
like.
felt like it was an unfair criticism myself, but I felt like if they had put out some Batuu existed in like a film or something first, it probably would have been better for across the board for everybody.
True.
So, like, imagine if they didn't do Batuu. Imagine if they did Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it's like what Universal Studios has done with Harry Potter. You walk into, especially the one in Florida, you walk into Diagon Alley, you'll look like you're in the movie. That's that's what it's like. Whereas Galaxy's Edge Batuu is more of a sort of like a. It's I always describe Galaxy when people ask me what my experience is at Galaxy's Edge, like I describe it as borderline spiritual because you walk in there and it's not specifically anywhere in Star Wars, but you're like, oh no, this is Star Wars. I can feel it in my core.
Yeah.
Joel Davis gives the special 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10, solid score from Joel. And Matthew, the other half of the Ion Cannon duo, gives it 5 Force Ghosts out of 3 Pangalactic Gargle Blasters. So excellent Hitchhiker's reference.
I think
there.
that's 16.66666 out of 10.
Yeah. All right. That'll wrap things up for the discussion of Lego Star Wars for now. But we got plenty of other news to get to this week, and we'll start with what is the next big Star Wars televisual event. Of course, we're talking Andor Season 1, or Andor, as we talked about last week with Stellan Skarsgård's pronunciations of it. Empire Magazine has had a couple of exclusives this week, a couple of exclusive images. This first one that we have on the screen here now just basically shows Cassian walking down the street. Like, he kind of looks like he's just like going somewhere, going to work. He's got his satchel bag on him, and he's just out for a nice stroll.
How did he get one of those bags?
Yeah. Now, this was accompanied with a quote from showrunner Tony Gilroy talking about how the production for Andor differed from, say, The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett with in terms of how they made it, because they didn't use the volume. They built a lot of sets, did a lot more green screen stuff. They went old school. This is what he said. Tony says, "Yep, we're old school. We didn't use stagecraft at all," which apparently had some people saying he was like dissing the volume or like hating on it, and so he actually had to clarify his comments at the Television Critics Association presentation, where he says that the technology is actually extraordinary and it's going to be a big force in entertainment. He says our show is just on a massive epic scale and people would be running off the set all the time.
Interesting.
So, Tony Gilroy leave it to the internet to make a big deal out of Tony Gilroy like hating on the volume, because I don't think he was. He was just sort of describing how he made his show. So,
yeah.
I like this because I always like feeling like the spaces are big and it adds to the realism. And I've never really had an issue with the volume when it comes to the technical side of it, but I guess it definitely does shrink what you can do. And so I see how you wouldn't want that limitation if you're creating big giant sets and things.
Yeah.
You know what is, we never had this problem before we all knew and understood the technology of the volume. I mean, we might have known, there was new technology and kind of using new screens and things, But if that was like all we knew, just this basic level, I don't think we would be having this problem of like, oh, in Boba Fett, everyone was like looking out for the volume scenes, being like, oh, that scene was in the volume, like I know that. But it's like if we didn't know the detail, could we tell?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Boba Fett, you could see the seams pretty badly in a couple of shots.
There was like the little the campfire scene.
Yeah, it was like here's the ground and here's the wall. It was sort of as that. But like you're right. Like there's sometimes I'll see behind the scenes of like season 2 of The Mandalorian, and I'm stunned that some of the stuff, especially like in the Ahsoka episode, is the volume. Because I was certain that was like a set with a green screen extension because they looked so expansive. When in reality it was a little piece of a set, but it was mostly the volume. Same goes for Obi-Wan. They did a really good job, I think, on that show of mixing the volume with real sets, practical effects, and green screen to create something pretty spectacular. And so my preference would always be shooting if they would find locations to shoot these things and build sets and that sort of thing. But as I think Tony says, or is saying in his sort of clarification, like, the ability to do digital set extensions and for it to there's stuff, even though we can pick out the seams in certain places, there's other stuff where we're just all in and we're not thinking about the volume at all. So anyways, that's it'll be interesting to sort of compare and contrast, especially with Andor and Mando season 3 coming out relatively close together. We'll get a sort of a sense of, two masters of their craft with Jon Favreau and Tony Gilroy and what they accomplish. Now, the other picture from Andor is it features Cassian Andor and Fiona Shaw's character. Now, Fiona Shaw is, I believe we learn in this story, is playing Cassian's adopted mother, which is interesting. We're gonna get kind of a look into Cassian's life. I thought I saw that. I might be, but then again, I might be making it up.
I mean, it's literally one of our headlines, so I think so.
Okay,
unless
good.
You made it up and wrote this headline.
I should read the show notes. That's incredible. That's amazing.
But Fiona Shaw had some comments about the world of Andor and how it compares to our world that set the Manchise people off in an interesting way. She says, quote, Tony has written a great scurrilous.
No, this is a whole thing with me and Ben before you got on. We were going back and forth about what the heck this word was and how to pronounce it. It's scurrilous. There's no
Skrillex.
There's no extra syllable.
Skrillex? Skrillex. It's Skrillex. Okay.
Squirrel.
Yeah, I was about to say, is this
Squirrel.
like the offshoot band of Skrillex?
Squirrel.
Scurrilous.
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 It sounds like it's the spelling bee. Where it's like, can I have a pronunciation, please?
Can I have the language and origin, please?
Scurrilous crumb.
Can I have it used in a sentence, please?
Well, to use it in a sentence, Tony has written a great scurrilous take on the Trumpian world, says Fiona Shaw, who plays Marva in the series. Our world is exploding in different places right now. People's rights are disappearing, and Andor reflects that. In the show, the Empire is taking over. Interesting little note about this quote here. I just noticed this as I was reading it. The words in the show are in brackets, which means Fiona didn't actually say that.
She didn't say take either.
Yeah, so that's the writer of this article just adding a little context to clarify. I think Fiona just said Andor reflects that. The Empire is taking over. I think she's talking about what's going on now.
Dang.
And it feels and it feels like the same thing is happening in reality too. She says, she goes on to say, I was impressed by Tony's social realist intentions. He's created a whole new morality. It's very deep and humane. There is grief, mourning, hope, fear. It's not just primary colors here. This is something we kind of discussed at length about the trailer, which is this show seems like it's giving us a real look at the multitudes of the Rebel Alliance. That you have characters like Mon Mothma, who's really involved in kind of the political side and you know, doesn't really want to fight if she doesn't have to, but eventually realizes she has to. And then you have Saw Gerrera, who just wants to blow everything up and get vengeance for how things have for how his life has gone and how things have and the things that have been done to him and to his loved ones. And then you have someone like Cassian, who's kind of in the middle of the two, and you know, it's kind of a stark contrast to the original trilogy, where you know you could really tell who was on which side and who you could believe in based on what uniform they were wearing. Whereas I think in this show we're going to see a lot of characters who wear the same uniform but have varying beliefs and ideas on how things could and should and will be done. And
yeah,
I think that's very exciting. And again, reflects the real world in a very real way.
I had to look up what that word meant. I'd never heard the word before. Scurrilous.
Oh my God, we're still on this?
Yes. Well, no, because that I wanted to know what she meant when she said that. I didn't know what she meant. I'm like, what did she mean? It kind of can be inferred for context, but it is like officially it is humorously insulting. There we go. I keep looking it up and forgetting it. A humorously insulting take on the Trumpian world is what it means. So
interesting.
So see, it is important to know.
Yeah,
the
it is
important.
Meaning. Okay, I retract my previous statement, Your Honor.
We can just assume what these things mean.
Chris, you are like the judge of grammar and wording. I love it.
Well, it was tough too because it's like that's not even the most common definition of the word. There's another definition.
This is the spelling bee. SCUR. I don't have the word in front of me anymore, so I can't cheat.
It's on the.
It's vanished. It's vanished. Hold on. SCURRILOUS. Scurrilous.
Is that your final answer?
Ding.
That is correct. You advance to the next round.
Yay! The only word I know, Chris, for a spelling bee, and I'm saying this for you because you're the only person I know is going to get this. Is AARDVARK.
Yes,
let's go.
That's right. Wonderful.
Looking at Hannah trying to figure out this reference.
What's the word?
Aardvark.
I'm just trying to spell it. Aardvark.
What is the first words in the dictionary?
Yeah,
often the first.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow.
Back to Andor. Yes.
I've got a comment.
Or do you want to talk about Scurrilous?
No, let's leave Skrillex behind. So about the war and politics and all those kinds of things. I had a thought about this the other day of, we talk about the dark times and the Empire and this whole, the plight of the rebellion and, the discourse in the rebellion of trying to figure out how to make change, like, without creating a war. And they're just like, we don't want this war kind of thing. And I've always kind of thought, why is everyone so, like, laid back? Why does everyone just kind of cop it or take it? Or just that, they're so fearful to do anything. And I kind of thought maybe that's another facet of why seeing so many details of the Clone Wars was so important. Because it's not just like, we don't want a war because we don't know what that's like. It's like, no, they do know what it's like. And it's very recently they know what it's like. And especially in the later seasons of the Clone Wars, they went through a lot of like notions of how the war affects civilians and like planets that sit idle by. So I think I know it's not really a question. It's more of just a reflection I had of, wow, it was actually really important how we saw the war functioning. And then to see many years after, people are like, just don't want to go back to that. Like, we cannot have that again. Well, obviously, because war's never great. War, what is it good for?
War does not make one
great.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. So I know, I found it really interesting, and it makes me think of season 7 when Anakin and the Bad Batch go to Skeko Minor. Is that it? You know, and they kind of inflict on this primitive kind of culture and tribe, and you know, and it was this really deep question of what's right, what's good, authoritative figures and powers. And I definitely think we're going to get that in Andor so much more. And, you know, obviously everyone's saying that it's really going to be a political game, you know, between how the rebellion formed and their stance against the Empire. But then again, the deeper of even within the rebellion, the differences of people and, you know, how they think the leadership should be handled, trying to go against something. They go, yep, the Emperor's wrong. How do we go about, you know, being against them? It's interesting. It is politics.
Absolutely. One thing that I really loved about Bad Batch as well was it kind of showed us the immediacy after the Clone Wars of just how tired everyone is of war and fighting and wanting to, you know, I think there was a real desire to move on and to have it, you know, not have to fight another war like that. You know, I think, you know, people, you know, World War I, when it happened, was described as the war to end all wars. And I have a feeling that there were probably some people in the Star Wars galaxy who felt that way about the Clone Wars. Like, it was, you know, this visceral galactic wide trauma, you know, that had never been experienced for generations. And I think people were probably hesitant to have that happen again. And that's something I think Bad Batch should continue to explore is, you know, there were people, we see it on that show, that were ready to fight again, but the rest of the galaxy wasn't. And it wasn't until we get closer to, you know, A New Hope, Rogue One, the original trilogy, that that we're actually that people are actually ready to stand up and fight. They've been pushed far enough and and want to fight. Ben, you've been awfully quiet for the last little while. What are your thoughts on sort of on all the things we've been talking about, but specifically, you know, the feeling towards another galactic war in the galaxy at the time of Andor?
Oh God, I'm glad you got specific there, Len, before the question. But yeah, I do. I like the vibe that we're getting from this. I like how, you know, the whole idea, this whole idea we've talked about for years, especially in regards to Clone Wars and all this kind of stuff, is, you know, the whole trick of this is, okay, let's create a war. People are tired of war, and they will literally do anything. They will give away their freedom to stop it. That's Sidious's goal here. And so, you know, you have all of this, and the whole idea of certain people that the war never stopped for them. We see Saw Gerrera in Bad Batch, like the day after Empire Day, is like, yeah, they're already hunting me down. I've got to continue on my fight. You know, he went from fighting the Separatists to the Empire the next day. And we're assuming that Cassian is probably in a similar situation where he's someone who fought the Republic for years and years and then turns right around and the Republic turns to the Empire. Nothing changes for him. That whole dynamic, I think, is going to be really interesting to see. And we already see in the trailers with, you know, we talked about it last week about the clones all in white, and, you know, what is the difference between stormtroopers and clone troopers? Really nothing to these people. And that whole vibe of, like, you know, this just continues on. And certain people are like, yay, Empire Day, yeah, all this kind of stuff. And they're happy. I love those episodes of Rebels. Yeah, they're great. But but yeah, drunk Dad Kanan is drunk Grandpa Kanan.
Yes. Oh
Just
my
the
God,
best. Just mwah.
Oh,
But yeah, I want to see. I hope we see more of the kind of the blowhards too, of like the leave the bleeding heart in the Senate, all this kind of stuff. Like they're all into the whole Empire thing, and contrasting that with people like Cassian, who from day one were like, nah, Empire sus, because I was fighting the Empire before it was cool.
I want Cassian to meet Freck from the Obi-Wan series. I want to know how he's feeling after Obi-Wan smacked him in the head with a blaster. Maybe that gave him the wake-up call he needed. All right, so we'll move off of Andor. Obviously, we'll be talking a lot more about it in the months and weeks to come as we get ever closer to that September 21st 3-part premiere on Disney Plus. Okay. Next story I want to go to, this is kind of an interesting one because it's a little bit nebulous. We're not quite sure what show or movie it is referring to specifically, but Prey actor Dane DeLiggero, am I pronouncing that one right, Chris? Do you know? Is it like scurrilous?
No, you're not even close. DeLiggero.
I like my pronunciation better. Sorry, Dane. No, I'm just gonna call him by his first name. Dane. He plays the Predator in the new film that is streaming on Hulu if you're in the U.S. or Disney Plus in the rest of the world. And they ask him about, what else he's working on, what else is he doing. And he says this: I worked on a Marvel picture that just wrapped a few months ago, and I'm currently shooting a Lucasfilm production. They're not always huge title roles like The Predator, but to be involved in those things under those umbrellas is an honor, and it gives me a tremendous sense of pride. Now, I don't know what's going on with the Marvel side of things, but I have a theory.
Yeah.
Dane is a big guy. He used to play basketball. 6'9". And he's talking about something that's filming right now.
Yeah.
You know what's filming right now? Ahsoka.
Yeah.
You know who's in Ahsoka? Sabine. And you know who Sabine was in another show with, who's really big? I think Dane's playing one Garazeb Aurelios.
Yep.
I think we found our Zeb.
Nice. I can see that.
Maybe he's just doing like a background thing. Maybe he's
I
a
never
Wookiee.
thought of Zeb being a predator sized, and maybe but
makes sense.
Yeah,
he's big. Zeb's big. Just going by the action figure, he towers over the rest of them.
I mean, that's the original design for Chewbacca before they went with the furry version of Chewbacca.
It's a hairless Wookiee.
Yeah, it's a hairless Wookiee. So
yeah,
so the Wookiees are big.
That this might be the beginning of Zeb Watch 2022. So stand by.
Honestly, it would be disappointing if we didn't get the rest of them. Like, what's Zeb doing? If he's not in Ahsoka, we got Sabine, we got Hera. If Zeb's not in it, what's he doing? Like, what's their explanation? Like, you kind of have to include Zeb.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think so. So
that's cool. I gotta say, he was amazing in that movie. I watched that movie a couple days ago, and I was extremely impressed with that film. So I will gladly accept anybody who had anything to do with that film into Star Wars. Like that is exciting. He did a very good job as that character.
I hope that he's doing sort of the physical performance, maybe some motion capture in there. But I'm still hoping we can bring back old Steve Blum to do the voice.
Nice.
Predator doesn't speak, so it was not a speaking role in that film.
There you go.
So,
there you go.
Yeah. And bring back his boyfriend, Alexander Callis.
Yes.
Sweet.
Oh, surely.
Why
like
not?
All the Rebels characters.
Why not? Bring
As
them
Morgan
all back.
has
No,
to be.
no, stop it. You've gone too far. Gone too far. Be gone.
And while you're at it, I mean, you got AP5 there.
Who has to
Let It
sing.
Sing. He has
Who
to
has to
sing.
sing.
Come on. Yeah, you can't have. Steven Stanton needs he needs job security. Bring him back.
Yes.
You know what the next Lego special should be? It should be Jedi Academy musical.
Ooh.
And I want like singing Ben Solo with or I want like full on and then after that you make another series of Lego and it's Jedi Academy musical, the series. And you just keep rolling forward like that. There we go.
Well, R2D2 is all ready for bop, bop, bop to the top.
Yep,
He's got
he is.
bops.
He's got the jetpack. He's all set.
Yep.
Well, Zac Efron's got to make it into Star Wars somehow. So
some way, somehow. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Sticking with this sort of Ahsoka-ish theme, seeing as we've just completely made up a story, basically, that Dane is playing Zeb. Rosario Dawson, who plays Ahsoka, was at the C2E2 convention this past week in Chicago, and talked a little bit about the Ahsoka series. And she said something about a rough cut of one of the episodes. We've got a clip. It's just recorded from the audience, so it's a little bit. The audio's not perfect, but. Let's take a watch, take a listen, and hear what's going on with old Rosario Dawson and Ahsoka.
I'm gonna say, so I will say this. I will probably get in trouble for saying this. But Dave saw one of the episodes already edited together. And he walked up, him and Carrie Beck, both glossy-eyed. And he said to me that it was a religious experience.
A religious experience watching the rough cut of one of the episodes of Ahsoka. And, I have to imagine, for Dave Filoni, this whole experience has been sort of a religious experience, to, this character that he co-created with George Lucas and developed over many, many years across many, many shows, finally taking center stage on her own show in live action alongside other characters he created, alongside characters that are legacy characters. Let's not forget there's a very good chance we'll see a scene between Ahsoka Tano and Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker in this show. Yeah. It's going to be fascinating to hear from Dave when this series is done. And I almost hope, instead of a Disney gallery for Ahsoka, let's just get 6 or 8 episode commentaries just from Dave. Just have him talk us through what it was like making each episode for him. He did some of those for Rebels, and they were fantastic. So I think they should bring that back. But cannot wait.
Yeah.
Cannot wait to have these religious experiences watching Ahsoka.
And it makes me think, because with the Ahsoka series, I think because, the name drop of Thrawn that Ahsoka had, and everyone's like, oh, we're going to see Thrawn and these live action, we just sat here talking about, what Rebels characters can be in this show. But I don't know, I'm kind of seeing that to kind of, everyone's talking about that, which, that's exciting to talk about. But I think also with this show, we're going to get a really deep development of Ahsoka. And obviously Dave creating her and knows how to write her, and the other writers, everyone knows this character really, really well and deeply. And I think we're going to get a really interesting character arc of Ahsoka in this show. Do we know if it's going to be multiple seasons?
I believe they announced it as a event series.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah,
that doesn't mean anything anymore.
That doesn't mean anything.
As we're going to talk about with the next story, what does that even really mean?
Yeah,
because the character development that Ahsoka went through in Clone Wars was that's why she is such a reverent character. She just went on this really personal journey, and we were all with her on that on that process. And, you know, I think we can all agree the episode, which I'm going to forget the title of, but, you know, the episode where she leaves the Jedi Order was the music, the meaning, the dialogue was so emotional. That is one of the most emotional parts of Star Wars for me. Oh, yeah. And I think there's going to be a lot of points in this show that actually might rival that, of being really, really slow and quiet, but really meaningful. Of like, you know, is she going to have surely there's going to be dialogue with her and Force Ghost Anakin, like kind of having a discussion about the Jedi Order and the Force and what it means to be a Jedi, and have this really deep, meaningful moment. So that's kind of, I'm kind of reading into it there, of kind of religious experience. And like, I feel like, you know, seeing like Ahsoka see Chopper or something isn't going to be the religious experience. You know what I mean? Like, like for it to be that meaningful, it's like, oh, it's gonna be something really moving.
While it is true that there's so much character development we can further have with Ahsoka, but you said Hannah got me really excited about the character development the show could give to other characters too. And we haven't heard Anakin really talk about himself post what happened. Like we've heard him talk about, you know, his relationship with Luke, and, you know, how he wants to, you know, view Luke with his own eyes and like all this stuff. Like, you know, there were some lines that we did get, but we really haven't had much retrospection with the character of Anakin. And that's something that kind of I felt was really missing from the sequels that I wish that we had in there. Yeah. And so I think that having the opportunity to bring Hayden and to do some character development with who is Anakin after all of this happened, and have that see through the eyes of Ahsoka and a story about her. Yeah, I can see why that would be like we've been saying, a religious experience. Like that's hot day for sure.
Like imagine Anakin saying to Ahsoka, I understand why you left. And extending that, like, you know, when she was leaving, he was so like you can't please, like, you know, begging that real distressed plight to get her back. But just her being like, I understand why you left. And then she like looks at him and it's like, I understand why you were hurting and why you turned. Like, and like it could be this big oh man, this is like made up in my head. I'm gonna cry.
Stuff writes itself. I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think there would be conflict between Ahsoka and Force Ghost Anakin? Because, you know, Ahsoka, sort of everybody I think who knew Anakin kind of blamed themselves a little bit for what happened to him. You know, there's the great moment in season 2 of Rebels where she has a vision of Anakin when she sort of realizes that, you know, what has happened to him. And, you know, she hears him say to her, Ahsoka, why did you leave when I needed you? We saw Obi-Wan go through this in the Obi-Wan series. I wonder, you know, this reunion may not be as sort of straightforward and sort of mutually forgiving as the Luke Vader moments at the end of Return of the Jedi. There might be more complex layers to it of, you know, the two of them went through really challenging times, you know, once they separated, you know, once they stopped, you know, being master and apprentice, or being, you know, connected in that way. And, you know, probably could have used each other, used the support from each other. And I don't know. You know, there might be some resentment there from either of them, honestly.
It's very easy to go the route of thinking of Anakin and Vader as two different people, as Vader himself thinks of, and as something that a lot of characters have accepted, including us in the audience. And it's easy to go like, oh, well, where does the conversation leave off from Anakin, good luck. And he walks away and Siege of Mandalore. It's easy to take it from that perspective, but also, where do you really leave it off? Well, what really happened is he said, and then you will die. And that's the last thing that they thought. Like, that, pick it up after that, a little awkward. How do you actually continue that conversation? And knowing full well that, like, yes, Anakin Vader, in a way, two different people, but not really. He was the same guy the whole time, and the same person, the same body. And how does Ahsoka feel about that? Ahsoka is very viscerally scarred by that experience. She doesn't want to train Grogu because she's like, I don't want this to happen again. Yeah. So there's a lot of pain there. And if Anakin comes to her, how is he going to feel? How is she going to feel? I don't think it's going to be, hi, Sky Guy, hi, Snips, that thing would be great. But I think it'll be a little more complicated than that, a little deeper than that, probably.
Yeah. Joel makes the point with the super chat. Leia never forgave Anakin. Really, only Luke has. I feel like the Leia Anakin conversation is coming eventually in
I hope so.
Canon.
Where I don't know.
Yeah, that's the real question is
they
where.
They were standing right next to each other in the Lego Star Wars special.
I'm sure it's going to be in the next Lego special.
Imagine the Lego special is going to be the one that give us that.
Yeah. But or maybe they're just going to wait 20 years till Vivian Lyra Blair is old enough to play post Return of the Jedi Leia. But it could be it's one of those things that that's another one that I think we should see eventually, and we should see more between Luke and Vader. Like, you have Hayden Christensen. This was the whole thing with the sequel trilogy. Why not use him? And I think I hope that Obi-Wan Kenobi has shown that this dude can deliver. He can deliver a powerful performance.
Look, I really think they should just make a show called it's Luke, Leia, Ahsoka, and Force Ghost Anakin are trapped in a room together and talk it out. That's a show right there.
That's the thing is people talk about this concept of a bottle episode and how it's done to like save money because you only want one set, so you put all your actors in one set and then you just have them stay there for the entire episode because you need the budget for something bigger down the line, like your season finale. I think those are the best episodes because it forces the writers to be really creative and it be a dialogue driven, character driven episode. And I feel like that there's a place for more of those in Star Wars. You don't always need some giant battle or action sequence or plot going on. You can just get some really important characters together to hash something out for 30 minutes or 50 minutes. Like, that would be fascinating. Do it.
Yeah, I agree. Joel is furthering his point, just saying that this Leia stuff, the Leia not really forgiving Anakin comes from the books, which is fair. What you expect from the host of Ion Canon.
He's got his eye on the cat.
But Joel, if they wanted to do a scene in a show where Leia forgives Vader,
oh no,
what's the whole saying? But it happened in a book. We can't overwrite this, said Dave Filoni never.
Such a travesty.
It'll be the beginning of the Bad Batch all over again. All right, let's keep moving here. Got a couple of more stories want to hit. Obi-Wan, we were talking a little bit about Anakin Skywalker. We mentioned Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let's talk a little Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series, and season 2. Is it happening? Will it happen? One guy who will probably be among the first to know is Ewan Mcgregor. He was a guest at Celebrity Fan Fest, which is something. I don't know what that is. Is that a convention? I don't know.
It's a celebrity fan fest, obviously.
I thought the C2E2 was a new droid in Andor or something. I don't know what that was. C2E2? Wow.
I guess the other big guest is Hulk Hogan, so it's everything. This is San Antonio's convention.
Okay. Okay, that does make sense. The Hulk Hogan all of a sudden makes a lot more sense. But he was asked whilst on stage about the possibility of season 2. We've got another clip. Again, it's just filmed from the audience, so it's a little it might be not the clearest audio or video for that matter, but here's what Ewan said about the possibility of season 2.
Guys, I want to do but you're saying there's nothing known. It's just totally up for it.
I'm going to start the clip again because I think it jumped in a couple seconds in. So here we go. Here's the clip again.
I'm totally up for it, guys. I want to do but you're saying there's nothing known or any like planning at all? I'm absolutely honest, there's no plan to make one yet, but I think I'm pretty sure they're just biding their time. I think that nobody's approached me as yet. It was a huge success. With the largest premiere in Disney Plus history. Come on, Disney, come on.
Come on. Yeah, let's make more. Come on. Do it. Here's what I'll say. I just wrote this real quick. The first season of Obi-Wan Kenobi was announced at D23 Expo in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
There has not been another D23 Expo since then.
That's right.
The next one happens in under a month, beginning on September 9th.
That's too far away. Sorry. I'm so used to listening to you guys. I like forget I'm like here as well. Like I'd usually just have you on and go, "Oh, really, Dom? Oh, that's far away."
Oh man.
Yes.
Point is, they should bookend the two D23s with Obi-Wan Kenobi announcements. That's what I'm saying. And
yes, please.
I think I don't want to make predictions. Predictions are dangerous. But come on.
If it doesn't happen at D23, it's definitely happening on Disney Plus Day for sure.
Yeah, right. Right. Disney Plus Day, my favorite holiday.
No, I can't see them. I think the host of the panel is really getting to a good point there, which is how can you have the biggest premiere in the history of the streaming service and not continue making that content? Yeah. Like why would you then go and make a Kitster show when you can just make another season of Kenobi? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I ask the question every day. Why aren't they making the Kitster show?
Where is it? Come on.
Yeah, it's like someone just a friend of mine walked up to me the other day. I was like, "Hey, you think they're gonna do another season of Obi-Wan?" I'm like, "Well, if there's one constant in the universe, is that Disney likes money." And they above all things, they are a business that likes to make money. And when you have a thing that people like, guess what? You're probably gonna make more of it.
I mean, there's a reason why Mexican pizza keeps coming back to Taco Bell.
I thought we were gonna make it through the summer without more Taco Bell references.
Just because I ran out of Taco Bell sauce does not mean I'm done with the Taco Bell references.
Sure. Yeah, great. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, totally. All right, let's close out. Let's close out with a little bit of news about the Acolytes. One thing that happened in a week that Chris, both you and I were not on the show, was that they confirmed that Amanda Stenberg is the star of the Acolyte and that they have been cast in a leading role. The announcement was made during San Diego Comic-Con, not at a panel though. They just took a picture of Amanda at the Lucasfilm Pavilion for some reason, and they had the gall to do it when I wasn't there. So anyways, but the point is Amanda was interviewed by The Face magazine. Never heard of it, but sounds like a solid publication. And they asked them, about the show and what can sort of what the process was like for being hired for the show. And here's what Stenberg said. They said, the Lucasfilm team came to me with this project, which was fully conceptualized with me in mind, and I was astounded. I get to read, watch, and breathe Star Wars. It's my job to get lost in it. I'm so lucky. My plans were interrupted by a very different life path, but one that I think is going to be a huge blessing. So, obviously very flattering for someone to have a Star Wars role, written for them in mind, but also like very exciting, I think, for all of us in the audience that they actually got the person who they had in mind to play the part, to actually come and play the part. That doesn't always happen. But
it's just it's crazy how you have these situations with people like John Boyega and Daisy Ridley and Alden Ehrenreich, and the amount of auditions that they went through, the amount of people that they went through to get the roles like Finn, Rey, Han Solo right, and then you have other people that are just like, you're literally the only person we thought of. Yeah, here, take this role. Like that's crazy from an actor's perspective of like and knowing the acting world and knowing how hard it is to get work and how hard it is to get roles sometimes, especially in these big franchises. To have someone to come up to you and say, "Hey, we have this one specifically designed for you." That's crazy. But from a also production standpoint and a story standpoint, like you're saying, they are made for this role. This role was made with them in mind. That's really cool. That means that they're on another level in regards to what this character is going to be, how their conceptualization of the character, and what they want them to be.
Yeah. But I do see that side of things where you're just like watching something and you're like, wow, this is a really cool actor. It'd be really cool if they were in Star Wars. Like I can see that too. And they've been in a lot of good stuff. I've not seen The Hate You Give. I need to watch it. I almost watched it. It was like on a list that year of movies to watch, and it was the one that I didn't get to that year. And even though I heard many good things about that film, so I got to go back and see it and try to figure out, is there a scene where they're going kind of Sith and then that movie, or like I can see like how someone would look at it and be like, this would be a good Star Wars character. I'm curious now.
It is an interesting process, like what we're saying, and to me it speaks a lot of confidence into the production of the show. That I mean, obviously Leslie Headland being very confident. Not that, well, I don't know if it was her casting, but whoever cast it, the production crew on this show is just they're confident and they're wanting. They've got this they've got a plan. They've got a drive. They might not have every element of the story nailed out right now, but they have these are the characters. This is kind of the direction. And to me, I feel confident in this show even more now, knowing how confident they are.
Yeah, from what I know about this show, both what has been said and then just some things people have told me as well. I feel like this is the biggest dark horse Star Wars show. Like it's not related to anything else. It's not tied to any big name characters or events. So a lot of people aren't really going to be talking about it. It's just kind of off to the side. But I think it's going to really surprise people. I think it's going to be very innovative and different than what we've seen. And I think it's really going to expand what Star Wars storytelling is and what it can do going into the future. I feel like it's going to be the first show that very much feels like an extension of the Star Wars universe rather than just in the Star Wars universe. And I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole new era. I mean, it's the High Republic era, which is something that's being explored in the books, but this seems like it will take place kind of after that. So it's got kind of, it's got its ties to things. It's not completely on its own. But it isn't like The Mandalorian, which picks up after the original trilogy, or Andor, which picks up before the original trilogy, where you're very much set in what those time periods look and feel like. This gets to be much more its own thing that hopefully as someone who's a fan of the High Republic books, hopefully it ties in with that and can continue the feel of those, but also put its own spin on it and take that era and just Star Wars in general into a really exciting and interesting direction.
You know what it will be connected to is the season 6 Yoda arc of Clone Wars.
Interesting.
That's kind of my subconscious connection of like kind of guessing what, if I had to guess what it's going to feel like and kind of the aesthetic of it. When Yoda goes on that, geez, I need to rewatch those episodes. That kind of journey, a very spiritual and force felt journey. And there's like a part at the end, and he like, it's like Palpatine there, and they're like with this like cauldron of water, and they're talking about something. Hang on, is this a fever dream?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. No, that happened.
No. This sounds too crazy. Not my Star Wars. Doesn't happen in the franchise.
Yeah,
the franchise.
I'm pretty sure he's doing some type of Sith magic and saying some type of like incantation, and that's that happened. Yeah. I can see
double toil and trouble.
Yeah.
And I look at the word like acolyte, and I'm like trying to break down like, the only thing that we know about the series outside of the people that are making it and starring in it is this title, the acolyte, and that it's in this kind of previous timeline. And I'm trying to infer what I can from it. And what I think when I see that is I think of Asajj Ventress. When I say the word acolyte and Star Wars, put those together, what's the first thing that comes to my mind? The first image is Asajj Ventress. Asajj Ventress is sometimes referred to as an acolyte. And so I think that in addition to that kind of Sith mystical concept from the Yoda shows, I also think of Asajj Ventress's story and that very kind of like dark side, Sith-centric, magic-centric storyline with the Night Sisters and Dathomir. And so I think that this very much is going to be like a dark side story, a dark magic story that's going to like kind of like skirt those themes. And that's going to make it very different, because it's kind of like how the Clone Wars had that episode with Savage Opress in season 3, and then it just kind of took Clone Wars into a new zone that Star Wars hadn't been into before. Like before that, Star Wars had always been like, this is kind of stories of good versus evil, and you had those Sith characters and those dark characters, but they were always presented right against the heroes and fighting against the heroes, and how do we defeat them? And that was kind of how they were brought in, as they were almost foils for the heroes. It was very much with the Savage arc, and then further arcs with the Night Sisters, and further arcs with how Darth Sidious related to those characters, and Maul, that we started seeing stories that were just all villainous characters in like the hero villain dichotomy, but still it was still a story with character development, because you're still developing characters despite the fact that you don't have that hero villain dichotomy. You still have a protagonist antagonist dichotomy happening there. And so that's what I very much expect this show to be. I think this show might not actually be a like the Jedi versus the Sith. This show might be the inner workings of dark side users and dark magicians, and them being all of the protagonists and antagonists. Like when I see the word acolyte, I think of the protagonist being an actual dark side character, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. I as we've said often with Andor, that we think it'll be unlike anything else that's kind of happening in Star Wars. I think the acolyte's still a couple years away. So it might take that same sort of role of being unlike anything else that's going on, especially in a time when we will probably be getting one, if not two, Mandoverse shows a year, or even more, to then do something that is so completely off the board and different. It will likely be refreshing and good for the Star Wars. All right.
You know what I keep thinking about?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just Chrysanthemum and a group of kids that ride motorbikes, space motorbikes, got the keys to Mos Espa. We need it. I just think about that. We talk about all these shows. I just keep thinking about that's how the Book of Boba Fett ended. Oh my god!
Season 2, got to pick up on that stuff and just run with it. Just run with it. Hey, there's something else that could be announced at D23 in a month's time.
There you go.
Season 2, or the Mods and Chrysanthemum spinoff, which would be something else. A spinoff of a spinoff of a spinoff. Love it. All right. I think we've covered enough ground for this week. We've talked about a Lego special. We've made a big announcement, and we've gone through some news about upcoming shows. And I think with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right, so that'll do it for this episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We want to thank you, everybody, so much for joining us and watching us live. Anybody that wants to watch us live, you can do so every Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, at 8:30 p.m. Central Time, at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Time. And Hannah, what is it in Australian time?
11:30 a.m. on Friday, Australian Eastern Standard Time.
There we go. So that's where you can find the show live, and you can find us later on YouTube and on your favorite apps. And in the meantime, before we record another show, please follow us on social media. We can be found at the SWU. So follow us over there so you don't miss any updates from us. We're not live, but we'll be back at that time with more new content. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us as host. That's, I guess, the first time we can officially say that. So that's
that's
really
funny.
Cool.
That's so funny. Yeah, thank you so much. It's so good to be here. I feel very at home. And yeah, it's going to be a fantastic couple of months, and can't wait to start the journey with you all. It's going to be amazing.
That's right. You can follow Hannah on social media at the Ray Side, and then that's spelled RAE Side for those who are listening to the program at the Ray Side.
We used to say, Ben's thing was at Ben Hart with no E. It's we've now know where the E went. It replaced the Y in Ray. And that's how we...
That's where my E went. All this time.
Love it.
Ray with an E. That's...
There it is.
Ray with an E.
Awesome. And Dominic, thank you for hosting as well.
It's my pleasure. As always, great fun going through all of this good stuff. And of course, making the big announcement off the top. And as we said, more announcements are coming. Stay tuned next week. Stay tuned for more announcements next week and beyond. We used to joke it'd be nice to have 52 weeks of new Star Wars content every year, or in a year. Maybe we could have 52 weeks of announcements on this here podcast someday. So yeah, keep tuning in, and as always, check out Hoth Off the Press for some Star Wars reading if you're so inclined. It's been a great show. Can't wait to do all this again in 7 days' time.
You can find Hoth Off the Press on Substack, and you can find Dominic on social media at DominicJ25. Hannah's now stolen Ben's E and Dominic's hat.
Yeah, I needed to make the whole. I just gotta grow out. I'll grow out my beard, and I'll be you, Chris. I won't shave next week, and I'll be Chris.
Well, I mean, you did steal my shirt. I see you wearing my shirt, so that kind of counts a little bit.
Yeah, I've got the shirt.
Yeah.
There we go.
I look like such a mega fan right now. My God.
Stop shelling.
Star Wars Underworld.
Oh my gosh. Ben, thank you for hosting as well.
Oh, it was a pleasure as always, especially tonight. Feels like the beginning of a new era of the Star Wars Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld Network, I should say. Yeah, we got a lot of... I'm really excited to, obviously very excited to share you guys what we're doing tonight. But yeah, we've got more stuff on the horizon, guys. Keep going. We're gonna keep going for as long as we can, and just see what kind of announcements we can drum out. As long as the first few weeks will be grand. After like the 10th week, it may not be as exciting, but we'll
just start making
them
up.
The big announcement.
Making them up. We'll just start making things.
I got new earbuds. Yeah.
Big announcement.
Okay.
Big announcement is that there's going to be a show next week. Can you believe it?
Awesome. But yes, you can follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. And check out all the other stuff that he's doing outside of this show.
No, don't bother. Don't bother.
And you can follow me at Seek3PO. I'm trying to post on Twitter more. That's the last one I remember to post on. But
that's your first
I haven't
mistake.
posting on Twitter. So you can still follow me on Twitter at Seek3PO. It's still a thing. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Punch that subscribe button. We want to thank everybody who contributed to us by super chatting tonight. Huge thanks, and huge thanks to everybody who is a channel member helping make this happen. And huge thanks to our patrons over at patreon.com/DSWU, and make sure you hop in on that community over there so you can get access to our pre-shows that we do a half hour before the main show each and every week, and that you can watch on demand later. And we've got a preview of that over on our channel a few weeks ago. Scroll back and you'll see it. Best of the Patreon pre-show. swunderworld@gmail.com is where you can send us an email, and please leave us a review on any podcast apps that you're listening to us on. So that is it. Thank you again so much for listening and watching. We'll be back again with another episode next week. But until then, for Dominic and Ben and Hannah and all the fantastic folks at the Star Wars Underworld, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.